The topic for today's session is basically sustainable mobility solutions for a greener future. So I was just thinking of finding out what does sustainable mean. So something documented, this thing which I could get was the UN had made a commission, Brundtland Commission, which had defined sustainability as meeting the needs of the present without infringing on the ability of future generations to meet their own needs, which was in very crisp words, it has been very clearly outlined that let us do development which is not affecting the future generation. And then, because of positive time, I'll be very brief on these all aspects. But then this was evolved out in Agenda 21 in 1992 in Rio de Janeiro. And then the Millennium Goals were set in 2002. Then in the present context, if we see, it is the Agenda 2030, but basically SDG that we call the 17 SDGs. And we are basically, every country is working on those lines today. Going ahead, what sustainable transport, if you see, then what we see is that railways is about, it emits about 9 to 10 times lesser carbon emissions than the road transport. And means every logic, what it will say with this is that we should have rail transport everywhere, but then why don't we have it? In recent past, we have seen a lot of efforts in this direction being made, like National Rail Plan was made for the railways, which envisages, as mentioned earlier by Dr. Chaudhary as well as Mr. Satyakumar, that we intend to go from a modal share of about 26-27% to about 40-45% by 2030, and even further enhancing it. Similarly, if you see the metro sector, MOUD has come out with the metro policy, which envisages, which basically gives the framework in which the metro systems should be developed. When I was delving upon this aspect, what I could see was that what were the constraints by why the railways has as such not proliferated in such mass scale, which from the as I told, it is 9 times more effective, more less carbon intensive. So basically, it was indirectly related to the infrastructure financial constraints which we are having to expand the networks. Then the policies which were there in place. Now today, like what Dr. Chaudhary had mentioned in his inaugural address itself, that the Gati Shakti remains a very important, it integrates the overall system to give a better output. And as has been told at many places, this is the last mile connectivity remains the most important bottleneck which I see of not having that proliferation to that large scale. Though if you see the metro systems today, as mentioned earlier also, that they are more advanced in this aspect because they have come out in recent times, so they had that advantage of using the best of the technologies which were available. Now coming to the railways, if you see, then we have envisioned ourselves to be a net zero carbon emitter by 2030. And it's not a small call by any standards. If I compare many of the other railways, I could see the French railway has envisioned to be by 2035, the German railways by 2040, the US, Canadian, and the Japanese railways by 2050. So it has been a tough call, and we are working in that direction, and we have identified 4 major strategies for going in that direction. One is the shift from diesel to electric traction. Then the second, the most important, was adopt carbon neutral or low carbon sources for our energy needs, which is primarily a supply side intervention. Then The third strategy is reduce energy consumption through energy efficiency, which primarily will be a demand-side intervention. And lastly, offsetting the necessary available emissions which will remain. So if I go to the first one, as Mr. Satyakumar mentioned that we are a very old system, and to transition from one system to another is not a very small thing. And we are in many fields today trying to do that. And one is transitioning from a diesel traction to electric traction. Today, more than 92% of our track is electrified, about 60,500 kilometers RKM out of our about 65,500 odd RKMs which are there in on the BG network. It will be the first among the bigger railways, the first railway to have done this. When I was just examining my data based on our electrification performance, I could see that our scope 1 emissions, because of the electrification that we have done till now, in 21-22, we were able to reduce our carbon emissions, scope 1 emissions, by about 77%. And it's a very huge number which we have been able to achieve. And overall, if I see from 18-19, there has been, if you see from the BAU mode, then it was about 34%. Similarly, on the transitioning from diesel to electric, we have been trying to do head-on generation, basically powering the coaches through the locomotive itself. You would remember our Rajdhanis, all of you would have traveled in them, and you would be seeing the diesel generators guzzling smoke and sound you would be hearing whenever a Rajdhani train passes, which in today's date you would not be finding that. Because of this technology which we have adopted, we have converted all our LHB coaches which were possible to be converted to HOG conversion. So we have done that. And today we are saving about 600 million liters. We have saved from 2018-19 onwards to 22-23, which has resulted in emission reduction of about 1.3 million tons. Now going to the next strategy, which is our most important strategy, is sourcing our energy needs through renewable sources. And today, if you see, we have tied up about 5.75 gigawatt, means on the installed capacity side, the renewable capacity which we have tied out. But then the one major change which we have done today in our strategy as far as renewable energy is concerned is that since railways is a network which is running 24/7, our loads are 24/7, and the renewable power, as you understand, is generally is inform in nature. So like solar, if you see, you will get in the daytime, but then what would you do for the balance period? So we were the first major energy using organization which has taken out a tender for 100% renewable energy, round-the-clock energy requirement. And we awarded this thing for 900 megawatts of RE-RTC, and at a very, very competitive price, which was ranging from around 4 rupees odd paisa, some paisa, to about 4 rupees 10 paisa per unit. So this was one thing which we are, and today it is but it was achieved through a lot of consultations with the stakeholders. We had in-depth discussions with all the renewable power generators, and this actually resulted in that we improvised our tender conditions so that the developers are at comfort giving us the renewable energy at the most competitive price. And the rates which we got are a testimony of that. And the second testimony was that even Ministry of Power recognized it, and then they took out, came out with a this RERTC framework, which was broadly based on our success story which we had. Now today we have again floated tenders for 750 megawatt of RERTC, and we are even going ahead with another very innovative mechanism, which is that to utilize our existing solar, which we have already tied out, to make complete 24/7 RERTC. So these are some of the efforts which we are taking in this direction, and our power requirements are expected to go to about 8.2 gigawatts, primarily because of increased transportation requirements, as well as running more high-speed trains like Vande Bharats into our system, which will increase our requirement of power. So we expect that the requirement of power by about 2030 should be in the range of 8.2 gigawatts, for which installed capacity of about renewable capacity of about 30 gigawatts would be required, and involving an investment of about 1.5 lakh crores. So we generally are planning to do this whole of the effort in the developer mode, wherein the developer who is the best understanding, who has the best understanding of the systems, would be investing his money into the system, but we will be having long-term power purchase agreements with them to ensure that they deliver us energy and we give them the power, we give them the payments on time. Thirdly, then the third strategy was on the energy efficiency. So there, what we did was that we came out with a very comprehensive policy, again, which was envisaging to basically make energy efficiency into our whole system. And it was, again, is not a very easy task for a large system like railways. We have identified 5 action plans, broadly envisaging areas like sustainable buildings, which will be for both new establishments and the existing establishments. If I tell on this, then we have mandated that for new buildings, all buildings would be all buildings above 30 kilowatts will be super ECBC, and it is expected that in future that I should be saving about 1,000 million units by 2030, in turn resulting in a carbon emission reduction of about 1 million ton. These are small steps, but then every drop only makes the ocean. So we have to take all those steps in that direction to make this happen. Similarly, what we are trying to do, this was for the new buildings. For the existing buildings, we will have to make the buildings efficient through our existing equipments that we use to be made more energy efficient. So for which what we have planned is to do investment grade energy audits at, we identified about 26 odd 100 buildings which are above 30 kilowatts, where we will be getting these audits done, and based on those findings, we will be undertaking interventions for energy efficiency. Since in the existing building, you cannot make a lot of changes into the envelope, but then you can always do a lot of things as far as the energy appliances are concerned. So there we are trying to do this intervention in the existing buildings. And again, it is expected that about 150 million units per annum would be saved, which will result into a saving of about 125 crores per annum for the railways. The second important strategy, which Mr. Satyakumar also mentioned in his presentation, and Chris is the nodal point for that, is the IR Niyantrak that we are making. It is, you can say it as a pilot for the Indian Railways as far as the IoT implementation over the Indian Railways will take place. Here, what we are trying to do is all our electrical assets, which means is expected to be around 50 odd thousand equipments in the system, all our buildings, then escalators, lifts, pumping installations, quick watering systems at the stations. All these things we are intending to make a centralized system which will be made by the software part of it will be made by Chris, which is called the IR Niyantrak. And at the field level, the IoT devices will be provided by the railways, those hardware equipments, and this all will be integrated, and each user will be given their user IDs so that they can control and monitor both their systems. And similarly, there are other strategies like we have mandated to for a 5-star rated products to be used. Then the one very important aspect is training, and we have trained basically on this policy so that there is dissemination of information. Being a very large organization, we needed that we disseminate. So at the central level, means at the central training institutes and through webinars, we have trained about 800 odd officials of the Indian Railways today. And we intend, and what we are doing is that we are going in the every zone also and trying to educate each and every person there so that this is getting imbibed into the system. And last of our strategy is offsetting emissions, which whatever emissions we have some PPAs with some thermal plants. So we expect that we will be taking those emissions through plantations. We have, railways have done some about around 6.5 crore plantations since 2014-15, and we intend that will be going even more aggressively in future so that those emissions can be offsetted by that. Many of the other measures which some or the other way have been covered, like the modal shift from DFC, which is expected that it will result in the saving of about 450 million tons in the next 30 years, which is a huge number by itself. And many other things, and one of the other things which also needs mention is that we are trying to do a pilot on the hydrogen train also, which its trials are expected to start in 2024. I will not go into the smaller things which have been broadly addressed, but then at the same time, there are some challenges which we are facing today in terms of, like, we are a deemed licensee, but then we have not got at some of the states. We are trying to get that so that this proliferation of renewable energy through the renewable sources can be done much faster. At many other places, we face problems on getting net metering connections through which we can use our solar plants which are installed on our rooftop at the stations to be effectively utilized. The most important thing which we have to address, which I have already mentioned earlier also, is the last mile connectivity, and presently we are trying to address it through our various policies, including the freight policy which we have taken out, which is expected to help railways basically include the last mile connectivity also to make the systems more viable for our users basically. But the last but not the least is the lifestyle changes which are happening, and they are very contradicting. Basically, you need more comfort, you need higher speeds, which more comfort means take individual transportation rather than using the public transport, be it the railways, and to be more precise, the metro systems. So the last mile connectivity remains a very, very important aspect when it comes to the metro systems also, because unless you get this thing done, this will not help the overall system, and the people will not basically come forward for the public transportation system. And the higher speeds result into higher energy requirements, so which in turn increases the overall carbon emissions. But then we need to integrate our systems, and Government of India through its LIFE initiative has tried to see this aspect, and we in the railways are also trying to integrate our things into that fold. With these words, thank you very much for inviting me here. Thank you very much.